going to resume recording. Ho, 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 ho. The bookmark is at the title page. The bookmark is at the title page. All right, I gotta switch out the glasses, everybody, because I can't see. Well, welcome to our event. This is an event hosted by Queen Anne Book Company, and we are featuring 4 amazing authors. Oh my gosh, and I saw somebody pop up who I know. Hello, Eric. And I just wanted to say welcome, everybody. It's great to see you here. It's great to have you here. We are going to disable everyone's cameras except for the presenters. We're going to ask everyone to make sure that their audio is off so that we only hear the presenters and, well, me. And I will welcome you all now to our event for Spies. Today, we are going to be, for security and focus, we're running this event as a presentation. So you'll see just us presenting, and we are all at separate secret locations. Well, maybe not so secret. And before we start, I just want to start with a little anti-harassment speech, because we want to make sure that this is a safe and comforting and fun experience for everyone. So we expect all participants to maintain an atmosphere of respect and fairness. And anyone who violates this standard of behavior, including engaging in any form of harassment, may, at the discretion of the organizers, be immediately removed. So just your warning, there we go.
And I don't want to have any back talk from you, Gibbs. So the same thing.
We do know we have to watch him. Also, want to make sure everybody knows that this event is being recorded. We will share information on how to access the recording when it is available. And we are delighted to present for you a peek into the clandestine world of spies and the creative world of the authors who write about them. So I am just going to say, Billy, are we good to go? I have a secret person on the line. All right. I will start my introductions now because we are actually right on time. And I can see with my non-sunglasses, but do you notice that our authors are all wearing very secret disguises? And just a little hint, I don't usually have a mustache, but there we go. Our first author I would like to have wave and say hello is Rebecca Barone, the author of nonfiction book Unbreakable, The Spies Who Cracked the Nazis' Code, published in October of 2022. I have always been fascinated by cryptography, and this book tells amazing true stories from World War II. This is the kind of book that makes history and my brain come alive. And I just have to tell you, Rebecca, I actually sold out of copies at my store for the moment. So I had to go to my local library branch at the Seattle Public Library in Queen Anne. And that's why this one is so very shiny. Do you want to say hi?
Hi, everybody. I'm coming to you from my definitely not underground. You can see the window right there, secret lair. And I have also my very shiny copy right here too. So great to be here.
Beautiful. It's beautiful. Next up, I'm going to introduce James Ponti. James, hi. James is a best-selling author of novels, including the City Spies series. The first book, The City Spies, came out in hardcover in March 2020. Kind of a tough time, but we all discovered it, didn't we? The first book, the 4th book now is coming out just next week, The City of the Dead. And that will be on February 7th. And I want to also let you all know that there is going to be a very special virtual event with author Kelly Yang and James together, hosted by our friends at Blue Willow Bookshop in Houston, Texas. And that's on Monday, February 6th. So go to his website and you can find that out if you need some more James, because who doesn't?
My wife does not, and my children do not. They have had plenty, and I think Stuart does not. But the rest of the world needs more James. That's for sure.
Not true. We all need more James Ponti in our lives.
Well, thank you. Good to keep us honest, James. Okay. Next, I would like to introduce Steve Sheinkin. Steve has written over a dozen books that give us deeper insight into people and events from the past. He's researched civil rights leaders, football stars, trailblazing aviators, scientists, spies, and more. The graphic novel adaptation of his Newbery Honor and National Book Award finalist nonfiction book, Bomb, The Race to Build and Steal the World's Most Dangerous Weapon, woo, that was a lot to say, is illustrated by Nick Bertozzi, and it just hit the shelves on January 24th, 2023.
Hi, thank you for inviting me. And I gotta say, fellow spies, there's way too much joking around. You know, we're supposed to be serious. Remember we talked about that?
Well, you know, we work hard and we play hard.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, sorry, I'm warming up, so I got to take off my trench coat. Speaking of that, I would like to introduce our final author presenting today. We have Stuart Gibbs. Stuart Gibbs just keeps churning out the hits with beloved and best-selling fiction series like the Fun Jungle books, the Once Upon a Tim books, and the Spy School series. There are 10 Spy School books already, plus Spy School, the graphic novel, this is the first one here that's a graphic novel. And you can pre-order Spy Camp, which is the second of the graphic novels, also illustrated by Anjan Sarkar, and that will be available on April 4th, 2023. Welcome, Stuart.
Thank you for having me. Steve said we should be very serious. I'm going to be very serious now. So,
Not everyone knows this. Among Stuart is like the Justin Bieber of middle grade. He just has hit after hit after hit after hit.
I feel like that's the most backhanded compliment I've ever.
No, that's big.
That's isn't Justin Bieber the Justin Bieber of middle grade? Isn't that what he is?
Maybe that's it. Never mind. I got that wrong.
All the kids watching are like, I don't even know who Justin
Yeah,
Bieber
I was trying to think. That's how I was going to call you Taylor Swift, but then maybe I don't know. So I missed a chance.
So for those who are keeping track at home, we have two nonfiction writers. Will you raise your hands? Our two nonfiction writers. Great. We have Steve and Rebecca both write nonfiction true stories, and James and Stuart who write novels or fiction.
Yeah.
Just keeping track. So so Steve, you've also written some fiction too, right?
I have some, but my main thing is definitely nonfiction. And the graphic novel really is what it says. It kind of crosses the line because I got to make up dialogue, which was, for a nonfiction writer, Rebecca, you could probably appreciate it. Such a wonderful change of pace.
Oh my gosh, I would imagine that would be so freeing, because every line that you have in a nonfiction book has to be cited, and all that dialogue has to come from a source. Yeah.
Wait, actually, now I'm even faster because it didn't even occur to me that you'd have to make up the dialogue for all those guys in that book. And so does that mean even more research? Like now you got to go down and say like, okay, well, what was this guy like or woman like super serious? Did they ever crack jokes? Like, like what do you have to do?
Yeah, I think it wasn't more research. It was more creativity, which was great because sometimes you just know these two spies had a great conversation, but the research is a dead end. You don't know what they said, but you can certainly make it up, and it becomes sort of based on a true story, based on a research thing, and that was really fun to write.
Okay.
The beauty is, though, by writing about spies, even if you're wrong, they can't come out and correct you because
they're never
not
going to
supposed to say who they are.
I feel like in 100 years they unseal everything, don't they? And then they can be like, okay, that's right.
Well, that's the hardest thing about writing about spies, though, too, right? Because the best spies you don't know them because you're not supposed to know them, right? So
it is it's true. Like if you go to like the spy museums, they're always like about the double agents. That's like the only spies we know.
Yeah. The ones who turned.
Right. And now like the guy from Argo, right? Yeah.
And even though we know Tony Mendez, even though Stuart and I write fiction, we were talking just a couple hours ago. Both of us do a ton of research for accuracy in the books. So, when you're writing about this stuff, I think you feel the need to be accurate on all the ways that you can be.
Well, I know you've talked to like the CIA director, right? James, or
The former deputy director of the CIA was a source for me.
So how tight-lipped was he forthcoming? Or
He's
was
retired,
he
so he's good now.
Okay.
No, actually, what I asked him for wasn't so much what happened. I asked him more, how would you do this, and how should you do that, and what's allowed and what's not allowed. And so he was able to talk about that. And then he was helping me specifically on a book that took place in Moscow and Beijing, and I talked about security in those places.
So there was none of the, I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you type.
There was none of that, no. But I'm hoping for some of those in the future.
I'm sort of torn because like I like every time I feel like now I could talk to somebody in like the CIA or something, I feel like all I would do is be like apologizing, like I'm so sorry for what I made you guys out to be.
And just
That's what makes your book so good, though.
If we could ask all of the audience to turn off their cameras and off their microphones as they arrive, please, and that will just help it be visually easy for us to see our authors even as they are in disguise. I love seeing the preview, and I just have to say this is so fun for me. James kind of brought this group together, and this is our first time being together face to face, and it's just so fun. We've had a lot of planning and a lot of back and forth of secret communications, and we haven't had to use any dead drops, but we have had a lot of communication, and it's just so great to see all your faces and hear what you're up to. So the time has come for our first game. Part of why I was so excited to host this event is I love a theme party. And our first game is called, I made it up, first of all, and it's called the Cryptonym game. And I am pretty sure that all of my authors know what a cryptonym is, but I'm just going to spell it out for all of the audience just in case, because I do love to know where words come from, and I love to know synonyms for things. So a cryptonym is a word that comes from Greek roots, which if you study a lot of vocabulary, Greek roots are really helpful. Crypto means, does anybody want to say it?
I don't know. I write fiction.
It means secret. Crypto means secret, right?
That makes
then
sense.
the word nym, which is also from Greek, which means name. So it's a secret name. So it's a code name. So our next game is about code names. And what I did was I asked each of the authors to very secretly email just me a code name they would pick for themselves. So with spies, you often have someone called the handler, and the handler is the person who recruits them and manages them and sends them on operations. And I have to say, I've always thought, what a cool job. Very high stress, much higher stress than being a children's book buyer. But I thought I could be the handler for this game. So I know everyone's secret identity, but they don't know each other's secret identities. So I am going to present a code name, and I am going to ask an author to guess which other author or presenter, because my code name is going to be in here too.
Ooh.
So you have to, yes.
No, before you show it though, I have something I want to ask, but you keep finishing your intro.
Well, I think that's pretty much it, except does someone want to volunteer to be the first one to guess?
I want to guess without seeing anything, because I really thought about this, and I thought about Rebecca, and I thought, what name would Rebecca pick as her code name? And with no help at all, I want to take a guess. It could be way off.
Okay. So you think you already know my name without any?
Because I think your code name is Skyline.
Skyline.
Is that not it?
No, I think you guessed the name of my 6-year-old.
Okay, that's your. I know she's in Cincinnati. She loves Skyline Chili. Okay, then I give up. I give
blew my
up.
cover, James, you blew my cover, man.
That-
Ah,
You know, if you were right, she couldn't tell you.
That's
Okay.
true. You could though. You're the handler.
That's-
I know, and I'm going to say incorrect.
Okay, all right. That's not an official guess. That was just a shot in the dark, as we
I
say.
like the creativity. You're
Yeah.
just you're feeling it.
Okay.
Okay, so the first code name. Well, since Rebecca has been chosen, Rebecca, would you like to be our first official guesser?
yeah, sure. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Let's see if I can get through it.
Okay. All right, our first code name is Andre. And is that
Andre.
backwards? Because then you get to practice that spy skill.
We
of
see it.
reading
We
backwards.
see it the right
I know,
way.
we see that
Okay,
right.
good.
Yeah,
Code name
thank goodness.
Andre.
Let's see here.
Who do you think
Andre.
is Andre?
Who would be Andre? I feel like that's almost kind of fancy. Who would go for an Andre? An Andre.
Make me feel fancier.
How'd you get Tegan's hat? Let's see here. Andre. I think I'm gonna go with Stuart on this one. I feel like that could be
because I'm so fancy.
I mean, you know, that's
French.
it's the
Stuart
sunglasses.
is
You know,
very
it's really-
fancy.
And I
Really?
like to eat entrees, so it's almost the same.
However, Stuart is not Andre.
Darn.
So
So do I get a second guess?
sure. Sure. Who do you think might be codename Andre?
So at this point, it's 50-50.
Or it could be Tegan.
Or it could
Or it could be
be
Tegan. Oh my gosh, that could be
It's
I
Tegan.
could-
33, 33,
Or it could be
33.
you, and you're trying to
Oh.
throw us off.
That's
Oh my
right.
goodness. So clearly I said 50-50 just to throw everybody off. Yeah, I knew that. Okay, totally knew that. That's true. Tegan, now I can see it with a mustache too. Tegan, was that you?
It was not.
Oh.
Andre, would you like to reveal yourself?
You're really
I
good
feel
at
like now it's
this.
50-50.
Rebecca.
Now it's now.
Would Andre like to reveal themselves?
Yes, that's me. You
Oh,
brought me out. I can see. Wow. I
Steve,
didn't
will you
realize I
tell,
was on TV until just now.
will you tell us the story behind Andre?
Oh yeah, well, it's a spy name. It should be really. It would be a terrible actual spy name because it's the main spy in the story of Benedict Arnold, his real name. So it's a terrible giveaway. But and if people know my love of Benedict Arnold, if they know anything at all about me, gentlemen, they would know that. So
I'm so sorry.
no. And you're not supposed to know that. But yeah, that's where that comes from, and that was. It just came to mind immediately when you brought up this idea.
Love it. Love it. All right. Shall we do one more?
Yeah.
Okay.
Getting Rebecca the hardest one, really. So
That's right. That's right. She had the most options. Who might
That's
be code name Nighthawk? And Stuart, since you were last to speak, you are up.
Oh. So I'm gonna guess now. It's
You might have to divert.
I
if you
gotta. But now it's been
I
narrowed
think I
down,
know this one.
right? So it should be easier.
I think I know this one.
I don't know. Is there a famous chili place in Cincinnati called Nighthawk Chili? Is that?
I wish, if only, you know. We need more.
No. But that's a famous diner.
Mm.
Let's see. I'm gonna say James.
It is
Incorrect.
not me.
Okay, now I'm down to
Incorrect.
50-50.
I think it,
Are you really? Are you?
All right. Now I'm gonna say Rebecca.
you know how I knew that was
Oh,
Rebecca?
you even wrote it down? We were supposed to. Huh?
Yeah, weren't we supposed to write it down? I thought
Yeah, we were
supposed
supposed to write it down.
I had mine.
Oh crap. Okay, hold on. All right. Is there a story behind Nighthawk?
Well, you kind of touched on it too. So Nighthawk, I mean, knights and spies, you know, nighttime and spies and hawks with their senses and everything. But you mentioned the painting, the Edward Hopper painting. And so for those of you that don't know, there's this very famous painting, Edward Hopper, and it's nighttime and there's a diner and there's only 4 people there. And I've always thought that these 4 people, like any of them could be a spy, from the guy behind the counter to the 2 people talking, to the guy with his back to you, like one of those person has to be a spy. And so, kind of thinking about code names and everything, and came across Nighthawk. And then I Googled Nighthawks, and it turns out they're a hawk. They're a predatory bird, of course, but they're also known for their really short legs. And I know you guys can't tell, but on the computer and everything, but I'm a whopping 5'3". So, it's just this bird with its short legs that's deadly when necessary. And just like Nighthawk, I can identify with that.
I thought you were really tall. I'm gonna be honest. For whatever reason, I had you at 5'10" at least.
No, I'm really short.
Here we go. So that's a perfect spy height.
So
well, now anything you give, we know there's only down to 2 people. So if it's not you, it's right.
That's a valuable lesson, though, about spycraft, is that if you can narrow down your options.
Narrow it down. That's true.
Really good point. Well, shall we do a big reveal of all of the rest of the ones?
Yeah.
Sure.
If you have your code name, share it, please.
Oh, I know who that is.
Oops, wait a minute. Was I not supposed to share mine?
No, you're perfect. You're perfect. So
I was
Stuart
supposed
is
to share.
sharing
Right, that's
his
fine.
code name.
James, what's yours?
Oh, you say Pisa. That I would have known that.
I would have got that.
So James, why don't you tell us the story behind Pisa?
Well, the whole when I was first coming up with the idea for City Spies, I had this fear that people would lose track of, and I'm going to take off the sunglasses, I think, at this point. All right, I have this now that I've been exposed, this
Right.
fear that readers
Yeah.
would get confused about which character was which character. And so I came up with this idea that I would name the characters, their code names would all be the cities that they were from. And so we have Paris and Brooklyn and Sydney and Rio and Kat, who's from Kathmandu. So I started sending in my emails at work, because I was born in Pisa in Italy. When I would send to my editor, I would sign them Pisa. So my editor started signing them, hers in response to me, Manhattan, because that's where she grew up. And then a lot of the people at Simon & Schuster started embracing this. And so I had mugs made. So I had mugs made for Christmas, which are landmarks from each of the cities from where the characters are from, and then everyone's code name on their mug. So I actually have a Pisa mug, and my editor has a Manhattan mug, and they go on and on around the office. So they still use it on some emails, like marketing just sent me something addressed to Pisa.
I love that. And Stuart, will you share with us why Klondike?
There is no reason behind Klondike at all. I figured if you wanted a good spy name,
Exactly.
it had nothing to do with your background whatsoever.
Wait, you're not Koala? I figured you were Koala from
No,
Punch.
no. That's
Oh.
look at that. Yeah.
I'm koala because I got to hold a koala once, and as you can tell, it was one of the happiest times of my life. And then the author and illustrator Sanaya Shida, who lives in Seattle and is a dear friend, and we've worked on book projects before together. She did an event where she would paint you as an animal, and she picked koala for me. So, and I thought koala is an interesting word, because if you were trying to decrypt it, OA together and then another letter and then an A again, that's kind of a weird combination of vowels and consonants. So I thought maybe it would be kind of tricky.
It was the Wordle like 3 days ago, and it was.
Oh,
it was
really?
pretty brutal. I think I can give it away now because people are, you only get one day to do your Wordle.
Well, thank you all. That was wonderful. Everyone's stories and ideas, so fun. And I had so much fun just having all of your secret communications. I don't know, it made me feel really official. So we are getting some questions in the chat from folks. There are some questions about, like, what are you guys doing? We were just playing a game about code names, and everyone started with sunglasses because we were undercover. So I hope that explains. We'll get to some more of the questions maybe later, but we have now the idea of each of us we're going to take a little turn so that each of the authors can present a bit about their books. So what we will do is we will turn off our cameras until the next person is kind of tagged in. So why don't we have James, our instigator, kick us off and give us a few minutes of discussion, and the rest of the presenters will turn off their cameras, and then James, you get to tag who you want to have talk next.
Okay. All right. So my name is James Ponti. I am the author of the City Spies series, of a couple series, but we're here today talking about City Spies. And the series is about a secret agent, a man named Mother, who is an MI6 agent. And what he does is he is on missions around the world. He comes across kids who have kind of fallen through the cracks, so are on their own, and he doesn't want to leave them. And a lot of times they've helped him. And so he ends up adopting them. So he has adopted these 5 kids from around the world, and they become a spy team. MI6 sends them places where adults would stand out, but kids could blend in. And so the first book was called City Spies. And that was about trying to stop the release of a virus at a youth summit, a World Youth Summit in Paris. I did not know that the week it came out would also be the week a virus would shut down the world. So that was an odd choice on my part. The next one was Golden Gate, looking for under a mole, a double agent, takes him to San Francisco. Then came Forbidden City, which goes to China. And now the new one that comes out on Tuesday is City Spies, City of the Dead. And that takes place in Egypt, in Cairo, and down in the Valley of the Kings. And the missions, they're really fun to write these. And I really do research real missions and figure out how you do things and try to make it realistic, but also try to make it really a lot of fun. And the spirit of fun, I think, is a real hallmark of what I hope to accomplish with the books. But I do a lot of research on them. One of the things that I did research on is I was in England and I went to Bletchley Park. And Bletchley Park is this incredible place where the British during World War II, where they broke the codes, the Enigma code that was being used by the Germans in World War II. And these mathematicians and these people saved so many lives. And so that's why I was so excited when a book arrived on my table from Rebecca Barone. So I will let Rebecca tell you about that. She might mention Bletchley Park, and we will switch to her.
Sure. Thanks so much, James. I was like, wow, he's talking about Bletchley Park. This is the perfect intro. Oh, wait, it is an introduction.
There you go.
And so this is my book, Unbreakable, The Spies Who Cracked the Nazis' Secret Code. And it does. And the most famous place that everybody probably knows about is Bletchley Park. And the name everyone probably heard about from it is Alan Turing. But the story actually begins way before that. So it's a story basically about this Enigma code, which the Enigma machine was a machine that looks a lot like a typewriter, is nothing like a typewriter. It takes words, it takes letters and scrambles them and makes them indecipherable. And so it really turns them into this secret code. And the Nazis absolutely thought that this code was unbreakable. They were so brazen, so blunt about thinking that this was unbreakable, that they sent all of their plans over the radio. And anyone could listen in. You could just tune your radio and listen in. And you could listen, but you couldn't understand it because everything was coded and everything was enciphered through this Enigma machine. So it's really, really important that the Allies break this Enigma code, this Enigma machine. So Unbreakable is the story about how the Allies stole, solved, and fought their way into cracking the cipher. And so it kind of goes through, and let's see here, they stole it because they used spies, heavily used spies. The book opens with a German man named Hans Thilo Schmidt, who's a traitor, and his handler, so Tegan, he actually, of course, did have a handler, being a real spy. His French handler, who calls himself Rodolphe Lemoine. And that's, of course, not his real name, but that's who we know, that's how we know him for most of the book. And so the two of them start trading secrets, and it quickly gets passed off to Polish code breakers who make some of the very first gains, first headway into breaking Enigma. And all this is happening years before the war. One of the really interesting things, because Steve knows a lot of history. I don't know a lot of history. I know a lot of, I like gadgets and I like adventure and drama, but I don't know a lot of history. So one of the things that I was surprised about when I was researching this book was just how almost inevitable World War II seemed in the interim between World War I and World War II. So Europe after World War I is just decimated. It's absolutely decimated. And everyone can kind of feel that Germany isn't, you know, they're obviously not happy, and they're looking to fight back as soon as they can. So right next to them is Poland, and Poland knows that they're in the line of fire. So Poland is highly, highly motivated to break this Enigma code. And they're really the ones that start and are highly motivated and start making the first inroads to it. And kind of while this is happening, while the Polish codebreakers are going on, while, you know, Rodolphe Lemoine and Hans Thilo Schmidt are trading their secrets back and forth, you kind of see how Hitler's rising to power. So there's this parallel between how the codebreakers are working and how the Nazis are rising to power. And as soon as they do go and invade Poland, the Polish codebreakers flee. So they're chased around the continent for the rest of the war. And the code breaking moves, like James was saying, over to Bletchley Park in England. And Alan Turing and his team of geniuses take over the effort, and they really try and use their wherewithal, their know-how to solve it mathematically and analytically. And there's this great quote where they say later after the war, they reflect and say, if we had sat down just with our genius and tried to solve this code, all we would have gotten was a headache. Because there really are parts that they can't do, that are just impossible to get. And that's where the soldiers come in, where they have to fight on the U-boats, and the whole clandestine U-boat campaign comes in, and how the Navy attacked the U-boats, and the fights and the skirmishes, the battles that happened to physically obtain this evidence. So you got the spies that are, you know, using their intelligence methods. You got the geniuses and the code breakers in Bletchley Park doing their thing. You got the soldiers doing their thing, all while trying to fight the Nazis. And it's this incredible, and I probably should have reiterated it. I know Tegan made a good point earlier. This is all nonfiction. This all actually happened, every single little bit, every piece of dialogue, every, you know, if I say they wore a red shirt, then I have sources that say they wore a red shirt on that day in that scene. So I think it's incredible that not only did this happen, but it happened exactly how it is. You know, the whole adventure, the whole drama and everything of it was absolutely true. And someone later calculated after the war that breaking Enigma shortened World War II by something like 3 years. So saved hundreds and hundreds and thousands of lives, really. So that is a little bit about Unbreakable, the spies who cracked the Nazis' secret code. And I think I will turn it over. Let's see here. Let's go back to fiction. So Stuart, why don't you take a turn?
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. That is a great book, by the way. I mean, it's a great story, but that everybody should read. They should read all of our books, really. But that's I love reading Rebecca's book. I also realized that if I just have to go back to the whole code names thing, because I was realizing that if Tegan was right and we had to pick our code names by animals that we've just held, I was realizing that my code name would have to be Wombat. But so I'm kind of happy that that's not how that happened before. But I do the Spy School series. That's my spy series. It is not.
Wait, that's one of 2 spy series.
Well, yeah. I mean, okay, yes. It's the one that has spy in the title, I guess. Right. I do. Okay, I have 2 series that take place in the CIA. Very, very different. Yeah. So Spy School here, which has been going on, if you can believe it, for now 10 years. I got to the 10th book. This is about a kid who gets recruited to the CIA's top secret Academy of Espionage and gets thrust into this world full of danger and action and intrigue, but manages to persevere and save the day. And we're now 10 books and soon to be 2 graphic novels, because Spy Camp graphic novels coming, illustrated by the amazing Ajahn Sarkar. This is an idea I had when I was a kid, because I saw my first James Bond movie and thought it would be awesome to be James Bond, to be a spy. I really thought that's probably what spying was like, that they were just sort of all swilling martinis and flying to exotic locations and everything. And so I thought that would be great. So I thought it'd be great to go to a top secret spy school. So I guess it's always important for me to point out to young fans that if you have an idea now and you're just in elementary school and you think that idea would make a good book, it may take you a while to share that story with the world. But I encourage you to hold on to it. There may be some, a rejection or 2, or in my case, 7,000 along the way, but eventually maybe it'll work out. I also do the Charlie Thorne series, which is a kind of a different spy series about Charlie Thorne is the smartest person on earth, even though she's only 12, and because of her great intellect, she's been recruited against her will by the CIA to help track down in the very first book something that Albert Einstein discovered, that an equation he found that he could not trust humanity with. So he left all these coded clues to finding it, and Charlie's in a race against bad guys to find that. And that's sort of the series is that series plays a little maybe more serious, has a little bit more globetrotting to it. That Charlie's, I always wanted to write something like all those sort of like Bourne Identity, Robert Ludlum sort of novels where somebody was thrown into the spy world and had to travel from place to place around the world, solving codes and ending up in lots of danger and having action sequences in really cool places. So those are my books, and I'm now Steve is left, the amazing Steve Sheinkin.
Oh, thanks for picking me. I really appreciate it. And Rebecca is right. I really love history, but I love gadgets too. I have one here, and one of these is a regular silver dollar, and one is a really cool spy gadget. So if we have time, I'll show you what I mean. But yeah, Bomb. All right, I'm going to talk about my graphic novel Bomb, and it's actually based on or adapted from this nonfiction book, which they tell the same story, but in very different ways. And the story basically is a spy story. It's the story of the making of the first atomic bomb during World War II and the spies who stole those secrets, which ended up being a huge part of both the story of that war and then everything that came next in the Cold War. And it started with my love of spies. There's this one spy in particular named Theodore Hall, who's not famous at all, but what shocked me about him was when he was 18 years old, he graduated from Harvard with a degree in physics, which tells you a lot. And he was recruited directly from campus in Boston to Los Alamos, this top secret lab where American scientists and their allies were struggling and racing to build this new type of weapon before Adolf Hitler could get it, which was a real possibility then. And at 18, he not only became a scientist at Los Alamos, this secret lab, but also became a spy, just all on his own, decided, hey, I think I'll give these plans to the Russians, the Soviet Union. They were our allies in the war, but not really our friends, and we weren't sharing secrets. And I jumped into that and said, that's my book. And I'm sure all the writers can relate to this. I started with one thing, and then as I researched, it not only changed, but just got bigger. It turned into this epic, kind of what Stuart was just saying, this global thriller about the race to build the atomic bomb. And so it kind of cuts between science scenes, the scientists figuring out fission and how to create chain reactions, and spies trying to get into American labs and steal these secrets, and commandos parachuting behind enemy lines, kind of Indiana Jones type scenes. But the spies are the key. The spies, I keep coming back to them as the main characters, because this really it's not American spies who pulled it off. In fact, it's Russian spies and their friends, but it really is the most impactful bit of espionage, I would argue, in the history of the world. They got two physicists into this secret lab, stole our bomb plans and used them to make their own. And that really kicked off everything that's come afterwards of the Cold War and beyond. And it's all done as a graphic novel. So I'd encourage you to jump online and just look at some of the pictures that Nick Bertozzi drew. It took him 2 years to draw the battle scenes, action scenes, science scenes, spy scenes. Amazing work of art. And I hope everyone checks it out. And that's my intro. I'm gonna pass it back. I hope everyone comes. Am I still here all by myself? Is everyone still here? I just realized I'm talking to my screen.
You don't have to be by yourself.
Is this all an elaborate prank to just? New mustache, eh?
Oh, you've noticed. Well, you are on top of things, Steve. I have to tell you that this is our next little challenge for all of you. I wanted to say that some of
is that even Tegan here? Because I can't recognize her because
there's a new host is taking over.
Someone's taking over the computer.
I thought this was the secure Zoom.
That is an amazing disguise. Is that really? It's
I refuse to answer any questions.
So I wanted to share that everyone that some useful skills for spies, as well as, just everyday life, and being a writer too, is to notice details, to be able to spot changes, and to remember things that might not have seemed important at the time. So authors, I want to give you a quick test of your powers of observation and your spy skills. I would like each of you to tell me one way I have changed my appearance since the beginning of this event. Steve said mustache. Okay, mustache gone.
You changed your shirt.
Yeah.
Good job, James. And I just want to show off my shirt. It says "Deny everything." This is from the International Spy Museum. All right.
Wait,
Somebody in the
speaking of the
chat.
International Spy Museum, I will be there signing books in 2 weeks, so make sure to catch that.
Awesome.
All right, sunglasses to real glasses, right? Is
Very
that
good. And also, I even changed frames.
Oh my goodness.
So good. You had an eye on my glasses.
So I have a bad news for you though, Tegan, just so you know. You know those changes, but you didn't turn off your camera. So we saw all the changes. No.
This was the best. Okay, Stuart, do you have one that you noticed, something that you noticed?
You are now in Caracas.
You're amazing. How could you tell?
Yes, I can tell that the background is the same, but I caught people speaking Venezuelan behind you, and so I know that you've changed your location. Yes.
There's a bit of an accent. I can hear that. Stuart, yeah.
I've got a little different rhythm to my sitting. Yeah.
Yes.
You're right. You're right. So another thing is, it's really hard to see, but I tried to add a beauty mark.
Oh.
Yes.
And as someone in the chat pointed out, I also put up my hair. So good job, everybody. Good powers of the observation. I have one more. This is going to be really tough because who of you were like breaking out a spyglass to look at things so closely, but Sasquatch appeared on my bookshelf
Yes.
while you were all talking.
I actually took a screen grab earlier, and I'm now pulling it up, and I can see the different. So yes, okay.
James, what a good idea.
Does anyone know what book Sasquatch is in front of?
Oh.
This is one of those things that children's booksellers, we're always like, what is that book? What is that book? Right. And so this is, yeah. Does anybody know? And this is
We just know it's not ours.
This is not your, and it's not
That's
your
what we
age
care
range.
about. Yeah.
Ooh, there's a good
I don't-
guess of Lady Pancake.
I
I'm
don't
not going to make you
recognize it.
wait any longer, but it's called All the Ways to Be Smart.
Oh.
And
you're either giving us a compliment or telling us a secret message there.
it's truly all about all the ways that you already are smart and how we appreciate you. And then let's see what else do I. Oh, okay. And I have one more. Does anyone remember what secret phrase I used at the beginning of our meeting?
The bookmark is in the front.
Title
The
page.
index?
Very close.
Title
Very
page,
close.
that's it.
Title page.
page.
Good job. See,
No,
look at the
Steve
teamwork.
got it, not me.
Look at the
Steve said
teamwork.
it.
The bookmark is in the title page.
you
Good
go.
job. Very good. Well, I'm very impressed by all your spycraft. And we now have a little time for question and answers. And I think we should start with, there was a fun one in the chat that someone said, what are your favorite books you've written? Do you have a favorite book that you've written?
I always feel like that's a fine question, but I think because like kids are always like, oh, they have a favorite book of ours, and so they think we must have a favorite book of our own. But it's very hard to say that when you work so hard on everything that you have a favorite. It's very much like being asked, which of your kids is your favorite kid, and my kids are in the other room, so I have to insist.
Yeah,
I
you're not
do not
allowed.
have a favorite kid. I do not.
Well, I was
Of
gonna
my
say, so-
own. I don't have a favorite child.
So without misconstruing this about kids in any sense of the word, I think my favorite book would have to be like the next one, because I always love like the brains, so no, not this. But the books, I like the idea generation. I like when you just kind of you're starting to think about an idea, you're starting to, put it together and see how the pieces come together and outlining and brainstorming. And so it's kind of always, the one you're working on right now is really hard. The ones you wrote are nice, but you can't do anything about them. And so it's kind of always the next one for me.
For me, I never have a favorite book, but I always have a least favorite book, and that's the one I am currently writing. And the one I am currently writing is, I'm convinced I have no talent. I'm convinced that it's never going to work. But then when it's immediately released, so next week, this will become my favorite book for about a week and a half because it'll be all shiny and new. And then it'll go back in the pack and be with all the others.
Yeah, I feel really similarly that what you're working on is the hardest one. It's the most exciting some days and the hardest some days. But when you have a brand new baby, this just came out a week ago. So, and I've always loved comics, and so for those reasons, I go with that for now. For now, it'll change, like everybody says.
Steve, are you going to
no,
be?
but once they're out, it's great. It's like, I mean, that's why all the ones that are out, you're like, I'm done with those.
Yeah, that's a great feeling.
With all of them.
Well, sorry, I'm going to jump in. Do you guys go back and reread your own books?
Every night.
Like on a, on occasion, well, how, I mean, like when my kids were young, then I would read my books to my kids. That was awesome. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I've listened to passages of audiobooks and I usually think, hey, that's pretty, that's not bad. But I don't want to listen to too much because I'm afraid the next sentence will be the one I wish I could change. So I just turn it, as soon as I hear it's okay, I turn it off.
I don't reread, but what I will do on Tuesday morning is I will buy the audiobook. And I will buy the audiobook for the new book once it's released. And when I go on tour on the airplanes, I'll listen to it. And I'm just really curious. I feel terrible for her name is Lisa. She does she does all the audiobooks. And it didn't dawn on me until I listened to the first one how many accents I put in these books. And there are, because I just have to write them. There's like 5 kids with different accents and 2 adults with one Scottish and one's British. And then, so like now I'll call her up like 6 months out and I'll say, hey, or I'll text her, Lisa, you might want to start working on Korean, Chinese, and Russian accents.
That's her. I mean, that like that was why I never wanted to be the person who did my own audiobooks for exactly.
Yeah, I can't do that.
There might only be 2 accents in my books, and I'm like, that's like if you're ever reading a book to your kid and you realize somewhere around like chapter 20 that you're doing an entirely different accent for whatever character you had decided to do. I thought like there's no way that my accent will change within like 3 lines if I try to do this.
Well, and I totally agree with that too, because like the accents and everything, when I listened to Unbreakable on audio, that's how I figured out it was pronounced Hans Thilo Schmidt instead of Hans Thilo, because I've been just going around pronouncing it wrong the entire time. And
I got that wrong too,
yeah.
That's incredible. I hadn't thought about that of so many times as readers and as writers, we have things that we only see on the page and then it has to be pronounced by the audiobook folks. And I am also, that's amazing to know too, that when you're on tour, because especially when you're writing the next book, you all have so many details in your books that it's hard to keep track of all of what actually happened, of like what came through out of the editing process, I imagine. And we only have 10 minutes, but I do see some people who've been very patient with their hands up. And so I'm going to allow a question, if that's okay. The authors feel okay with that?
Yes.
I see Anaya. I'm going to ask you to unmute and you can ask your question.
Okay, so can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so my question, I have a few questions, if that's okay.
Let's start with one because other people have questions too. Thank you.
Pick your favorite.
Okay, so this is for all the authors. What is your favorite genre of book? And what inspired you to write your book?
Spy
I,
books.
Thank
I
you.
like to write mysteries because I like to read mysteries because I feel like mysteries are the most interactive book. You know, the idea of a mystery that I love is that when I'm reading one, the writer is saying to me at the beginning, you're part of the book. I'm going to give you the clues and you solve it alongside. So I like that mystery with adventure thrown in. What about you, Rebecca?
Oh, spy books. Absolutely. No, I mean, like even before any of this came on, I had read all of your books already. Yeah,
And
no,
did you like mine better than you like Stuart's? I know Steve's are the better of all, but just it's important to know.
I can take it. I can take it.
ways to make enemies 101.
Everyone loves Stuart's books better. I get it. I have no problem with that. I love Stuart's books better too. So I'm good.
No, there, I mean, and I think I for this a lot of the same reasons, James, that you just said, you know, like, so spies there, you always see the mystery unfolding. You always, you know, maybe it's a little bit more clear with spies, who are the good guys, who are the bad guys, where it's all going. You can see it laid out in front of you. Yeah, more things explode in spy books than in mysteries. So I think that's probably it.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Steve?
Yeah, I'd go with spies, but thrillers specifically, that page turning feel. And it can be done in a lot of different ways. And people think of it as being fiction. And what's so important about what Rebecca's done and what I try to do is you can do that with true stories too. Don't think of history as a really boring textbook. It can also be a thriller, and that's really, really important.
You know, the book that did that for me was The Right Stuff. When I read The Right Stuff, like this is a nonfiction story that reads like the most amazing, exciting everything. So yeah, and I think your books do that. I think your books are amazing.
The Right Stuff was just, I think that changed the genre. I mean, it was just to be perceived as, you know, telling a true story.
I'm gonna say I like mysteries for a lot of the same reasons James does, but also because I think it's a story where the smartest person wins, and so nobody, like, you know, nobody needs superpowers. It's just a smart person, and they figure out what the bad guys are up to, and they figure out how to defeat them, which comes into play a lot in good spycraft stuff. I think.
Yes.
Love that. All right, we're going to do one more question from the audience. Murray Hill has been waiting. So I'm going to ask you to unmute and ask your question, please.
So as you can tell, my name is not actually Murray Hill, and it is directed towards Stuart Gibbs.
I was going to be very excited if your name really was Murray Hill.
That would be great.
That's a code name.
It's got a code name.
Yeah, so my name is Marcus. For Stuart, does the name Dane Bramage have anything to do with the words brain damage?
It does, yes. It's a spoonerism is a thing where you swap two, you know, the beginning of two words, like painkiller becomes cane pillar, and that sort of thing. And so yeah, my son, when that actually, people are saying, like, where do you get names? And my son one day when he was probably 5 or 6 was like, hey, you should have a character named Dane Bramage, because that reverses brain and damage. And I said, that's great. Okay, there you go, son. I made him Danish and everything, just blatantly to have that joke in there. But that gets into like name. I don't know, James. Like, do you? Well, I mean, Rebecca, you can't really make up names so much in nonfiction. But
James and Stuart, we can tell you guys are friends, right? Just if you read your books a little bit, and somehow the names between you two, and
yes, they do. Right.
You know, the name. I love coming up with the names in the books, and I have a secret weapon that I'm willing to share here, which is when I am coming up with names, because I have international settings all over the place, and I don't want to name them just the stereotypical names for, oh, it's Italy, so we're going to have a Luigi, and so I go straight to the rosters of the men's and women's national soccer teams for that country. And I start looking for names that I like, and I take a first name and a last name and mix them up. And so I know a lot of things like Egyptian soccer players because I wanted nice, good Egyptian names that were good.
I feel bad because I've been naming all my Italian characters after Super Mario Brothers.
That's where a lot of people, that's smart. It's smart.
Or menu items are always good too.
Yes. My character Antipasti is gonna. I take a Mario Brothers
Linguini, he's a good
character,
spy.
and then I take an appetizer, and that's a name.
Linguini Parmigiano.
There we go.
Well, I have a question that as a bookseller, and I saw someone else as a reader was asking this. We always love to know what is a book that you would recommend that we read if we liked your book.
I would like you all to read Unbreakable by Rebecca Barone, because I think it just captures in real life what I try to get going with my characters. And one of the things that's great about Spies, and I think you see it in that, and hopefully you see it in my work, and I know you do in Stu and Steve's, I think the greatest discovery I made about spies in doing these books is so many spies come from marginalized communities. And that's not an accident. It's not an accident that the greatest code in American history was the Navajo Code, or that the greatest spy in American history was probably a one-legged woman named Virginia Hall. And it's, or the mathematicians and the women, Bletchley Park did this amazing job. 80% of the people at Bletchley Park were women at a time when no one knew that women were doing anything on the war effort, practically. And what's great about that is you find that sometimes people who are overlooked, almost always people who are overlooked shouldn't be, but when they're overlooked, that makes them powerful because they can go, and that was really the whole basis of City Spies, is I wanted kids. So I would say read Unbreakable. And I think it's a great place to start.
James, that means so much. I mean, I think I was saying this beforehand, but all of your, even before this was conceived, even before we got together over email or anything, I'd already read all of your books, and to hear that from you, James, means an awful lot. And I guess if I was to follow that up, the gold standard, the book is bomb. So Steve, I'm gonna turn it right over to Steve and just say, you cannot beat bomb. It deserves every single award it won, and I cannot wait to read the graphic novel adaptation of it. I have it on my bookshelf. I told everyone about it, so they're sick of hearing about it, and it really is that good, and it really is that interesting. And it shines a light on everyone knows about the atomic bomb, but you don't know about it in this way, and you don't know what else was going on around it. Especially some of the scenes in Norway that I thought I knew the story, and I didn't know the story. And it keeps you engrossed the whole time. And I really am so excited for the graphic novel of it too.
Thank you.
I think.
I guess
one thing she said is great, though, and I agree. It's so exciting to read nonfiction when you feel like you know the story, and then like 10 pages in, you're like, I don't know any of this. This is all new to me.
I love that experience too. I feel like I have to pick Stuart now because he doesn't know. But actually, that's completely what I would say.
We don't have to do this. It doesn't have to be like a daisy chain.
No. I would say that I rarely get jealous of other writers. Sometimes I think, I wish I had thought of that story. But man, I was glad to hear you said you thought of Spice as a kid, because if I could have had one idea, if I could just steal one idea from one writer, that would be it. I just think it's a perfect idea.
Well, thank you. Now I got to pick James.
The joke
I'm
is
always recommending James's books to everybody. I know. Now we come over, but I do love James's books, and I can't wait till next week when I can read James. I can read the next City Spies, which is super fun. I'm gonna pull one out. I'm gonna say that because I do love mysteries and codes and things like that. I think where I found that love for all those was The Westing Game by Ellen Raskin when I was a kid, and that is a book that has it's one of the best mysteries ever written. It's one of the best like coding books. And there's about I can remember the act of reading it as like a fourth grader and having my mind blown like 3 or 4 times, like to go like, oh wow, why didn't I see that coming? And that's what I'm trying to do in books all the time. So I reread that book all the time.
Fantastic. Thank you. We have reached the end of our time. I have had such a wonderful time with you. Thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you for the great questions. I'm sorry we couldn't get to more. Just a reminder that you can order books through the bookstore where I work, Queen Anne Book Company at qabookco.com. There's an event page with everybody's books on there, but you can also get them at your local library and your local independent bookstores. So please too also support the other events that these authors are doing around the country. You might get a chance to ask those questions then. And just want to say thank you so much. And don't forget to follow these authors, go to their websites and see what they're up to next. You can always pre-order books when they're announced, and then you can be on top of things. And thank you. I've had a great time with all of you. I hope you've had a wonderful time too. And thanks and happy reading, everyone.
Tegan, before we go, I want to say one thing. Can I do that?
Yes.
Okay. I love independent bookstores. The independent bookstores are the key lifeblood of that, and librarians are the key to making, it's the way people find the books. And so Queen Anne is a favorite of mine. I met Tegan years ago and finally got to go to the store this summer up in Seattle. But there are great treasures in your local indie. Hopefully you have a local indie. Thank you so much for making the time and doing this. This is exactly why. Events like this are exactly why they're so great. So thank you, Tegan.
Thank you.
Tegan.
Thanks so much. Congratulations, everybody.
Happy Pub Day, Steve, and almost
Thank you.
James.
Yeah, coming up with you too, Stuart. Thanks so much.
That's right. Best of luck with all of your next endeavors.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.